Trash. That's what your wife is.
My mom said. I invited the whole family to dinner and gave them my answer. Part 1, The First Blow. I never expected to be the guy who has to choose between his parents and his wife. You grow up thinking your family will support you no matter what, especially when you finally find someone who makes you feel whole. But I learned the hard way that love can be a battlefield, and sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones holding the sharpest knives. My name's Jake. I'm 32. Been married to my wife, Alicia, for just over a year now. We met 3 years ago at a small community art gallery. I was there because my buddy dragged me along, claiming I needed culture in my life. I remember standing in front of this abstract painting, completely confused by the mess of colors, when I heard someone laugh beside me. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," she said. I turned and saw her, Alicia, with this knowing smile that made me feel like we shared a secret. She wore a yellow dress, had these warm brown eyes that crinkled when she smiled, and suddenly, the gallery didn't seem so boring anymore. I'm an engineer. The kind of guy who color codes his sock drawer and has a 5-year plan for everything. She's a school counselor. We're a bit of an odd match on paper. I'm a straight-laced guy who used to think wine and cheese night was code for boring, and she's soulful, warm, the kind of person who remembers everyone's birthday and always has Band-Aids in her purse. She makes me a better person. She taught me how to slow down, how to really listen to people, how to find beauty in chaos. My parents, especially my mother, were not impressed. The problems started early. Alicia's black. I'm white. I didn't think that would be a problem in 2023, but apparently it was a big deal for my mother, who masked her issues with coded language. She just doesn't seem like our kind of people, my mother said over coffee, 3 weeks after I'd introduced them. Her lips were pursed in that way they get when she's holding back what she really wants to say. "What does that even mean, Mom?" I asked, although deep down, I knew. She sighed, stirring her coffee with precise movements. "She's just loud. Animated. Different. She's passionate," I corrected. "It's one of the things I love about her." "And what does she do again? Some kind of school thing?" "She's a counselor. She works with kids who've been through trauma." My mother nodded dismissively. "No ambition. You always said you wanted someone driven, Jake." "All lies. Alicia has her master's. She works with traumatized teens and volunteers with domestic violence survivors. She stays up late making personalized care packages for each kid in her program. She remembers their birthdays, their triggers, their dreams. But to my mom? That wasn't good enough. Nothing would be. The first time Alicia met my parents, at this fancy restaurant my mother insisted on, my mother told her she spoke very well. I watched my wife smile politely, her eyes dimming just enough for me to notice. Later, in the car, she broke down. "Do they know I have a master's degree?" she asked, wiping away tears. "Does your mom think I grew up in some ghetto, talking slang?" I rubbed her shoulder awkwardly. "She didn't mean it like that." But we both knew she did. I should have said something right then. But I didn't. That was the first mistake. Part 2, things get worse before they snap. After that first dinner, Alicia told me she didn't feel welcome around my family. "Jake, the way they look at me, like I'm some kind of specimen. Your dad barely spoke to me, and your mom, she kept asking about my background like she was conducting a background check." I tried to brush it off. "They'll come around," I said, pulling her close in our small apartment kitchen. "Just give them time. They're from a different generation." "Different generation doesn't excuse disrespect," she said quietly, but let it drop. But they didn't come around. If anything, they doubled down. When we got engaged, after I proposed at the same gallery where we met, with the help of a curator who remembered us, I called my parents, expecting at least some semblance of happiness. "Are you sure you want this for the rest of your life?" my mom actually asked me, her voice cold over the phone. "Marriage isn't something you can just undo when you get tired of your little rebellion." "Rebellion?" I echoed. "Mom, I'm 31. I love her." "Love fades," she said cryptically. "Family is forever." At our engagement party, held in my best friend's backyard because my parents refused to host it at their house, my mom pulled my aunt aside, within earshot of Alicia, and said, "I always thought he'd end up with someone more refined. Like Jessica from his college. Remember her? Such good breeding." Alicia, who was placing appetizers on the table, pretended not to hear. I didn't pretend. I heard every word, and I stayed silent, paralyzed by the conflict, by the thought of confronting the woman who raised me. Second mistake. Our wedding day should have been the happiest of our lives. We'd planned a small ceremony in a botanical garden. Alicia looked breathtaking in her dress, simple, elegant, with delicate lace that caught the sunlight. And it was perfect, until the reception, when my mom refused to give a speech. Everyone noticed. The DJ called her name twice. My dad finally stood up, cleared his throat, and said, "She's tired. Long day." But later, I found out from my cousin that my mom called Alicia cheap behind her back because she didn't like her dress. $1,000 and it looks like she got it off the rack at some discount store, she'd said to anyone who would listen. The woman I married spent our wedding night crying in the bathroom of our hotel suite because of the people who were supposed to be my support system. I held her as she sobbed, mascara running down her cheeks. "Why do they hate me so much?" she kept asking. "What did I do wrong?" "Nothing," I said fiercely. "You did nothing wrong. I should have cut them off then. But I didn't. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, blood could beat bias. Because part of me was still that little boy desperate for his mother's approval. That was my third mistake. Part 3, the breaking point. Things hit a wall when Alicia got pregnant. We'd been trying for a few months. When she showed me the positive test, hands trembling, I felt this surge of joy like nothing I'd ever experienced. I picked her up and spun her around our living room, both of us laughing and crying. I was overjoyed. She was glowing. We started imagining names, picking nursery colors, even looking at houses closer to her job. "Maybe this will be a fresh start with your parents," she suggested one night as we lay in bed, her head on my chest. "A baby changes everything, right?" I nodded, wanting to believe it. Right. Then came the dinner at my parents' house. We hadn't seen them in a few weeks, and I thought, maybe a grandchild will thaw things. I called my mom, told her the news, and to my surprise, she invited us over for dinner. To celebrate, she said, and I let myself hope. Alicia wore a new dress that showed off her tiny baby bump. She'd been so sick with morning sickness that this was the first day she felt good enough to get dressed up. She even baked cookies, my dad's favorite oatmeal raisin, as a peace offering. The dinner started fine. Awkward small talk. My dad asking about work. My sister showing up late with her husband, both of them barely acknowledging Alicia. Then Alicia's phone rang. It was work, an emergency with one of her students. She excused herself to take the call in the hallway. As soon as she stepped out, my mom leaned across the table and said, "You really think a baby's going to fix this? With her genes?" I was stunned. The way she said her genes, like Alicia was some kind of defective breeding animal. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My dad just looked down at his plate, suddenly very interested in his mashed potatoes. My sister giggled, exchanging a look with her husband. "Oh, come on, Jake," my mom continued, rolling her eyes. "Be realistic. Do you know how hard life will be for a mixed child? And what about us? What will we tell our friends? Our church group? Tell them you have a grandchild," I said through gritted teeth. "Tell them you're blessed." "Blessed?" She scoffed. That's not the word I'd use. In that moment, something in me broke. Or maybe it finally fixed itself. I stood up just as Alicia walked back in, concern on her face at the obvious tension. "Let's go," I said, taking her hand. "But we haven't even had dessert," she started. "We're leaving," I said firmly. "Now." That night, back home, I told Alicia everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. I repeated every vile word, every disgusted look. And I'll never forget what she said next, sitting on her couch, hands protectively over her stomach. You can either be a husband to me or a son to them. But you don't get to fail at both. That was the breaking point. Part 4, The Decision. I spent the next week in a daze. At work, I stared at my computer screen but saw nothing. At home, I watched Alicia moving around our space, humming to our unborn child, and I knew what I had to do. I called my best friend, Marco. I need advice, I said, and poured out everything. Marco was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Jake, if it was anyone else doing this to Alicia, would you even hesitate?" He was right. If a stranger, a colleague, anyone had treated my wife this way, I'd have cut them out instantly. Why was I giving my family endless chances to hurt the woman I loved? I made my decision that night. I planned it quietly. Alicia helped me book a private room at a restaurant, an upscale place my mother couldn't possibly criticize. I told my parents, my sister, and her husband that I wanted to make peace and announce some good news about the baby. A gender reveal, my sister texted hopefully. Something like that, I replied. They came. Dressed up, full of fake smiles. My mother even brought a small gift bag, the first acknowledgement of the pregnancy. Alicia and I showed up last, hand in hand. She was 7 months pregnant by then, visibly glowing, undeniably beautiful in a blue dress that matched her eyes. When we walked in, my mother's gaze went straight to Alicia's stomach, her expression unreadable. Everyone sat. Small talk buzzed around the table. My sister rambled about her new kitchen renovation. My father asked about my latest project at work. No one asked Alicia a single question. When the appetizers arrived, I raised my glass of water and said, "Before we eat, I want to make a toast to my future." I looked right at my parents, feeling a strange calm wash over me. "You've made it clear how you feel about Alicia. So I'm giving you exactly what you want." They froze. My mother's hand tightened around her wine glass. "You don't have to accept her. You don't even have to like her. Because you won't be seeing her, or me, anymore." My mom's mouth opened, no words coming out. My sister actually laughed, like I was bluffing. Her husband shifted uncomfortably. "Jake," my dad finally said, his voice strained. "Let's not be hasty." Then I placed 2 envelopes on the table. One was a letter from my lawyer. It said I'd officially removed them from any inheritance, including the property they were living in, which I owned after helping them through a financial crisis 3 years ago. The other was a sonogram photo, with a note on the back, "Your granddaughter, who you'll never meet." My mom reached for the envelopes, her hands shaking slightly. "What is this nonsense?" "It's my choice," I said calmly. "You've made yours clear for years. Now I'm making mine." My dad whispered, "You don't mean this." I looked at him, the man who taught me to ride a bike, who helped me with my science projects, who never once stood up for what was right when it mattered. "You chose pride over family," I replied. "I'm just making it official." I stood up, helped Alicia to her feet. She squeezed my hand so tightly it almost hurt. "Jake, wait," my mother started, finally finding her voice. "You can't just—" "I already have," I said. "The house is paid off. You can live there until you die. But that's all you get from me. No visits. No calls. No grandchild." Then we left, walking past the tables of strangers enjoying their dinners, oblivious to the family fracturing apart just feet away. Part 5, The Aftermath. That night, Alicia and I didn't celebrate. We sat on the couch in silence, her head resting on my shoulder, the baby kicking lightly beneath her hand. The moment should have felt victorious, instead, it was just sad. The death of something I'd always taken for granted, unconditional family love. But I didn't regret it. "Are you okay?" Alicia asked, her voice soft in the dim light of our living room. "No," I admitted. "But I will be. We will be." She nodded against my shoulder. "I never wanted this for you. I never wanted to be the reason you lost your family." "You're not," I said firmly. "Their prejudice is. Their stubbornness. Their inability to see what's right in front of them, how amazing you are." The next morning, the storm rolled in. 20 missed calls. 15 texts from my mom. 4 from my dad. Dozens of angry DMs from my sister. Most were some variation of, "You're being dramatic. She's just using you. This is your family, you don't turn your back on blood. You'll regret this when the novelty wears off." One text from my sister read, "So you're choosing her over the people who raised you? Over your own blood?" Mom hasn't stopped crying since last night. I didn't respond. Because I'd already chosen. And her tears now couldn't erase years of causing pain to the woman I loved. Then came the calls from extended family. Aunts. Uncles. Cousins. Some tried to stay neutral. "I understand both sides," my Aunt Linda said when she called. "Family is complicated." Others said I was being cruel. "Your mother is devastated," my uncle claimed. "Is that what your wife wants? To destroy your mother?" But a few quietly said, "Good for you. It's about time someone stood up to them." I always thought the way they treated Alicia was shameful. My cousin Emily even sent flowers to our apartment with a note, "Congratulations on the baby and on growing a spine. Love you both." Weeks passed. Alicia's pregnancy progressed. We painted the nursery a soft mint green. I assembled furniture while Alicia folded tiny clothes. We took childbirth classes where I learned how to breathe with her, how to support her through what was coming. And through it all, the silence from my immediate family grew louder. No apologies. No olive branches. Just occasional guilt trips filtered through relatives. Then, on a Tuesday morning in April, Alicia shook me awake at 4 a.m. "Jake," she whispered, her voice tight with pain. "It's time." 16 hours later, Alicia gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, Eva Grace. 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Perfect in every way. When I held her, this tiny bundle with Alicia's nose and my chin, I knew I'd made the right call. She deserved to grow up in a home where love wasn't conditional, where her mother wasn't resented, where choices weren't dictated by fear of family disapproval. I took a photo of Eva, swaddled in her hospital blanket, and almost sent it to my parents. My thumb hovered over the send button for a full minute before I deleted the draft. They'd made their choice. My parents didn't reach out. They didn't visit the hospital. They never even asked her name. 1 year later. It's been a year. We moved to another state. New city. New start. Alicia found a position at a school with better resources for the kids she works with. I transferred to my company's branch office. We bought a small house with a yard where Eva will someday play. Life isn't perfect. Some nights, I still dream about family dinners from my childhood. Some days, I see a father and son at the park and feel a pang of what might have been. But then I look at Eva, now walking, babbling, her eyes bright with curiosity, and I know we're building something better. Alicia is thriving, more confident without the shadow of my family's judgment hanging over her. And Eva, she's the light of our lives. She has my mother's eyes, ironically enough, but Alicia's smile. She loves books already, grabbing them from our hands, insisting we read the same stories over and over. I still get the occasional message from my sister. Usually passive-aggressive, usually ignored. Mom's birthday is next week. She's getting older, you know. Dad had a health scare. Thought you'd want to know. Eva looks cute in the photos Alicia posts. Shame she'll never know her family. And my parents? They finally tried to contact me a few months ago. Apparently, they lost the house after failing to keep up with property taxes. The same house I told them to take care of when I handed it over years ago. The same house that should have provided security for their retirement. My dad sent an email, asking for just a little help. "We've been going through a rough patch," he wrote. "Your mother misses you. We both do. Maybe it's time to let bygones be bygones." No mention of Alicia. No mention of Eva. No apology. I read it once. Then deleted it. Because here's what they still don't get. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. It's about who celebrates your joys and helps carry your sorrows. It's about respect and love, not just when it's convenient, not just when your choices align with their expectations. Last week, we celebrated Eva's first birthday. Our house was full. Alicia's parents, who fly in once a month to see their granddaughter, Marco and his girlfriend, neighbors who've become friends, colleagues who've become family. As I watched Alicia help Eva blow out her candle, surrounded by people who genuinely love us, I realized something. I didn't lose my family that night at the restaurant.